In an explosive profile in the New York Times about Marjorie Taylor Greene, she kind of uncovers why she and Donald Trump had the falling out that they've had. And it's a pretty vicious one at that.
All right, buckle up, buttercups, because we're diving headfirst into the political swamp, and trust me, it's murkier than ever. Marjorie Taylor Greene, love her or hate her, just dropped a truth bomb on Donald Trump, and it's got the mainstream media scrambling. We're talking about Epstein. We are talking about hypocrisy, and we're talking about the kind of political doublespeak that makes your teeth ache. This isn't just about two politicians squabbling. It's about exposing the rot at the core of our so-called leaders. Let's get into it.
She says that things really came to a head after the pressure to release the Epstein files came between herself and Donald Trump. Greene says that it was Epstein. Epstein was everything. So that's what she says in this interview with the New York Times. And that Trump was livid that she held a press conference with some of Epstein's victims and that she threatened to expose some of the other men who were alleged to have abused these girls. So when she urged Trump to invite some of Epstein's female victims to the Oval Office, she says he angrily informed her that they had done nothing to merit the honor. I mean, the guy who can't stop himself from holding endless press conferences with literal war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu thinks that Epstein's victims didn't do anything to earn a visit to the Oval Office. Got it. Okay.
Whoa. Hold up. Did you just hear that? Trump, the self-proclaimed champion of the forgotten man and woman, telling Epstein's victims they didn't merit an honor of an Oval Office visit? The same guy who rolls out the red carpet for foreign leaders, no questions asked, suddenly has an honor code for American citizens who have been through hell? This is the kind of twisted logic that makes you want to throw your remote at the TV. It's not just tone deaf. It's a slap in the face to every person who has ever looked to our leaders for justice. Apparently, if you're a victim of one of the most depraved criminals in modern history, you're not honorable enough for a chat. But if you're a political ally, the door is always open. It's really makes you wonder where his priorities truly lie. Is it about helping Americans? Or is it about protecting a certain image and avoiding an uncomfortable truth? The answer, my friends, is becoming clear by the day. It's ridiculous.
It would be the last conversation Greene and Trump would ever have. Now, he dubbed her Marjorie Traitor Greene, as we all know. And a day later, she actually received a death threat against her college-aged son with Trump's new nickname for her in the email subject line. Greene promptly texted that information to the president. According to a source familiar with the exchange, his long reply made no mention of her son. Instead, Trump insulted her in personal terms when she replied that children should remain off limits from their disagreements. Trump responded that she only had herself to blame because he's an unbearable prick and you should expect him to have a pathetic response like that. Finally, Greene was very upfront about her own shortcomings during this interview with Robert Draper in the New York Times. He asked her, was there ever a point before 2025 where you thought, you know what, Trump acts like a man of the people and he talks about the forgotten men and women of this country, but I'm not so sure. She says, I was just so naive and outside of politics, Greene said with a wince of a smile, that it was easy for me to naively believe. And I relate to that. I definitely, when I was 100% partisan brained, I was naive enough to think that the Democratic Party would somehow be better than the Republicans on the big issues that matter the most, right? Issues of war, issues of the economy, issues related to Israel, for example. But tens of thousands of innocent people were slaughtered under Biden's watch, and there were never any brakes on that car. So I feel her when she says that. Cenk, what about you?
Yeah, so there's a ton of things that we disagree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on, and now a couple of things we agree on, and I'm glad to have the agreement. But that's not the point. The point is who's being honest with you and who isn't. So I'd rather have an honest person in politics or media that I disagree with more than a dishonest actor, because that dishonest actor who's pretending to agree with me isn't going to do anything they said anyway, right? So that's not to say that, oh, I prefer Marjorie Taylor Greene to a Democrat. I prefer Marjorie Taylor Greene to the other corrupt Republicans who've been screwing us over our entire lifetimes. But what's happening with Marjorie Taylor Greene is really important, not because she's become any less right-wing. I think she's still way more right-wing than Scott Jennings or Mark Levin, et cetera, right? So I think that she's beginning to realize, oh, our own side lies to us, and they don't actually represent our positions. So who represents the right-wing positions more on Epstein files? Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey, who say release them, and we've always wanted them released, or Donald Trump, who says, oh, nobody did anything wrong. His Justice Department says there were no one else that they would prosecute. They didn't want to release the files. He called it a hoax, et cetera. Well, that's not a question. There's no question about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Massey definitely represent the right-wing position. But the media just goes, no. Levin says move on. He just said it the other day to Mike Johnson. Oh, nobody wants to hear these Epstein files. We need to move on for Israel. I mean, I didn't mean that. He didn't say for Israel, to be fair, right? And mainstream media goes, oh, absolutely. All the right wingers, the real America First right-wing position is give Israel $100 billion. Don't ask any questions about Epstein, on and on. They just lie right to your face.
See, this is where the curtain gets pulled back, folks. The media, those supposed gatekeepers of truth, are telling you what the real right-wing position is? Give me a break. They're pushing a narrative that serves the uni-party, not the actual people. The real America First position isn't blindly handing over billions to foreign nations while our own infrastructure crumbles and our citizens suffer. The real American First position is demanding answers, accountability, and putting our people first. It's about releasing those Epstein files, not burying them under a mountain of corporate-funded propaganda. They lie right to your face, painting anyone who questions the narrative as un-American or fringe. But the truth is, questioning is patriotic. Demanding transparency is patriotic. And realizing that both sides of the establishment coin are working for the same corporate and globalist masters, that's just common sense, not some radical, crazy idea.
So the fact that it's not just her, so many voters on the right wing realize, oh, our politicians are also dirtbags. Thank you. And so, my God, if I can get more Democratic voters to realize our politicians that take corporate PAC money on the Democratic side are also dirtbags. Anna's right. Did they do anything about Israel? Nothing. They gave Israel even more money. Biden did that. He's like, congratulations on the genocide. Here's 20 billion more for your genocide. But I can go on and on. Did they do anything about the Pentagon's bloated budget? No, the Democrats didn't do anything about it. They don't do, all those corporate politicians never do anything about anything. And the job of people like Scott Jennings, who are pundits in mainstream media, is to lie to you en masse to get you to bow your head, not to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, but to the uni-party that is pro-corporate, pro-donor, pro-foreign governments. So lastly, we're talking about coming to the White House, that the Epstein victims didn't deserve it. You know who came to the White House recently and many, many, many times? Miriam Adelson. How does she?
And terrorists.
How does she earn her way to the White House? Well, her and her late husband, Sheldon Adelson, as you've heard me say many times, gave over $300 million to Donald Trump's campaigns.
And there it is, the smoking gun. Epstein victims, not worthy? But Miriam Adelson, whose family funneled hundreds of millions of dollars into Trump's campaigns, oh, she gets the VIP treatment, the Oval Office access, and apparently the power to dictate policy. This isn't just about campaign donations. This is about buying influence, plain and simple. It's the ultimate quid pro quo. You want to know why our politicians seem to serve everyone but us? Because the people who do get access are the ones writing the biggest checks, not the ones suffering in silence. Trump calls Marjorie Taylor Greene a traitor. But who's the real traitor here? Is it the one demanding transparency on Epstein, or the one taking millions from foreign-aligned donors and then shutting out American victims? It's not a tough question, folks. This is the uni-party in action. Folks, they don't care about your values. They care about their donors and the money they're funneling in for their campaign. Period. Straight, easy, simple.
And then when she was there, she patted him on the head and said, I'll give you 250 million more if you violate the Constitution and run for a third term because you're being such a good job of being my servant. And who's the traitor? He calls Marjorie Taylor Greene traitor. Do you know that the Adelsons flew out Jonathan Pollard on their private jet back to Israel? Jonathan Pollard was a literal traitor. This uni-party does not represent the right or the left. They represent the corrupt. Marjorie Taylor Greene is obviously on the right, and the rest of these people are utter frauds.
All right, patriots, that's the wrap for today's Truth Bomb. We've seen how the political elite, whether they are red or blue, often operate on the same corporate, corrupt playbook. Prioritize donors and special interests over the American people. Marjorie Taylor Greene's insight, despite her own controversies, really shine a light on the hypocrisy at the top. If you're fed up, as I am, with the lies and the double standards, then you know what to do. Hit that like button. Share this video with everyone who needs to hear it, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel. We're here every day, cutting through the noise and exposing the truth that the mainstream media won't touch. Let's keep fighting for real American first principles, because no one else is going to do it for us. We've got to do it for us.